Afternoon, viewers. My name is John Tenney. I'm with Experienced Pilot Services. I'm here with my longtime flying buddy and good friend, Jason Cutter. We met at Midway Airlines back in the day and have stayed in touch for many years. And we're putting on, this is episode 0 of Hangar Talk, the podcast. And our goal here is to be informative, educational, but also entertaining to give you a fun yet still enjoyable view if you come away with something about aviation safety. We've both been involved in safety of aviation, safety of flight for a long time. In fact, he used to work for a company called Flight Safety.
Yeah, many years ago, but and for many years, but yeah, I've always been involved in the training side of the industry throughout my career. So, and safety is obviously always, a big part of that.
So what we've done is we've looked at some focus areas of what causes aviation accidents. And today's topic is distractions. So we're going to be going through some slides. Jason and I are going to be putting in our comments. He'll be the serious guy, and I'll be doing the snide remarks, or we might switch. Who knows? But let's take up our first slide, and we're talking about distractions. So that's the leading cause of aviation accidents. Wouldn't you agree that distractions have caused a lot of accidents?
Yeah, I mean that's how many, I might even say most of them start. At least the air chain starts that way. That leads to the accidents is being distracted.
So I notice what this guy's doing. He's texting in flight. I want to get to that in depth throughout this, but let's look at a couple others first. Well, in fact, this first one covers it a little bit, just not in flight, but pre-flight. Have you ever been interrupted while doing a pre-flight?
I don't know that I've ever done a pre-flight that I haven't been interrupted on. I mean, it's, you know, FBO personnel coming up to ask how much gas you want, how much ice you want,
Or,
if you want the laugh
hey, your
service.
passengers are here.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Other crew members, talking to you for various, even if they're for legitimate operational reasons. It's very rare to get through a pre-flight without being interrupted.
do- have you ever allowed someone else to do part of your pre-flight?
Uh, yes. So we try to minimize it, but oftentimes in a multi-pilot crew, it's not uncommon for someone to do the inside of the airplane, somebody else do the outside of the airplane, or hey, I'll do this part of it, you do that part of it. And I think that's okay as long as the communication's there to make sure that everything gets covered, right?
So you know where I'm going with this. If these two get put together
Yeah,
and someone says like, "Hey, I didn't check the oil. Go check the oil."
yeah.
Particularly, it happened with me one day. My brother and I were out flying. And now he's a student pilot. He soloed. He never got a license. And I had checked the oil on a 172 and realized that it was down a quart. So I took out the dipstick and I set it on the side of a 172. You know where that step is, where you step to go to the top?
Yep.
And then on that, you can see the strut right here in my picture, right? So it's
Mhm.
laying one end on the strut, one end on that step on the right side, on the first officer's side, first officer of 172,
Yeah, right.
And I went back, got the oil, put it in, the can in that little funnel thing, and I stuck it in there and let it drain. And then later on, we got distracted, something we started talking. I walked up there and I noticed that it was gone and the oil door was closed. So I thought, oh, well, Bob took it out, threw it away, and put the dipstick back in. And as we're rolling down runway 7, right behind me there's runway 7. As we started to rotate, oil starts coming up on the windshield. Obviously, I boarded the takeoff and I said, "Did you put the dipstick back in?" He goes, "What dipstick?"
Let me guess, it was windy that day, right?
No, not really. It was sort of an overcast day. It wasn't terribly windy,
Okay.
but but he just said, I didn't, I just closed the door. I figured, I took the whole thing out and closed the door. I figured that's all you had to do. That's all
Uh,
I could do on my plane. I was like, well, no, you need to put the dipstick back in. And I said, I have to, now I have the distinct pleasure and privilege of calling up the tower and saying, hey, tower, we're boarding, we're going to taxi back. And by the way, there may be a dipstick on the runway. We went all the way back to the run-up area, which is right there. Lo and behold, I walked out there. It was still there.
wow.
It had stayed there. But of course, the plane was now covered in oil. We went back, got a different plane.
Right.
But so there is letting someone else, I like what you said. You like someone do the inside, someone do the outside. So
And it's
we don't want to be splitting it up too much, right?
and there's a difference as well if you fly with the same person all the time. Um,
Right. Yeah.
I mean I in my current situation I fly with generally one other person all the time.
So
Um,
you the same person?
Same person all the time.
So you two have a routine.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and it's when you get outside of that routine that it becomes more dangerous or potentially more dangerous.
Oh, there's one other thing here. Are there ever things you skip that you wish you hadn't skipped on the pre-flight?
Uh, yes, there have been. I'm trying to think of a good example at the moment.
I
But
don't always open up the cowling and make sure that everything is attached to the engine.
right. And there's from flying bigger airplanes that there are some things that kind of takes a lot of work to see if you want to see it.
Yeah, we're not going to open the cowling on a 737.
Right. Or even getting into the hellhole on a business jet. Um,
Do it on the Pilatus. I do get in the hole in the back of the Pilatus, make sure the battery's connected.
okay, well, we can use our batteries from outside. So,
So
um,
the next one is passengers. I'm sorry. Well, with the interest of time, I'm going to speed
yeah,
you.
go right ahead.
So the first thing, do you brief your passengers on distraction?
Uh,
Do you know what I
no,
mean by that?
I'm sorry.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
In my, it depends on the flying I'm doing. I'll put it that way. So when I'm in the helicopter, particularly when I have a new student or a passenger that's never been in a helicopter before,
Hmm.
I absolutely 100% all the time take the time to talk about, distraction, not distracting me. There have been times where I've hit the isolation button on the audio panel because
They're
you know,
talking.
they're talking, they're having fun, they're excited about things, but it's distracting to me. So I cut them out of the loop.
Do you brief them on that or you just do it?
Um, I just I the first time I did it, I just did it. And then I realized, that could possibly present some issues as well. So I did start mentioning that to them. Or I'll say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and isolate myself. If you need something, tap me on the shoulder or something.
I've
Uh,
gotten to the habit now where I will tell them, listen, unless you see something falling off or burning, if we're in a critical phase of flight, what you and I would know as airline pilots, a sterile cockpit. If we're in a critical phase of flight, please do not come up and, tap us on the shoulder or interrupt us. Wait till we're like way airborne or we're on the ground and off the runway.
yeah.
I've just given them that. And if some of the planes that fly do have that, like that Garmin audio panel that where the people in the back can hear you. And
Mhm.
I have told them, in fact, they've asked sometimes, can you isolate us? Like, yes, boom. Now you can talk and we can talk and we don't hear each other. I do include that in my briefing now.
Yeah, and because they just don't know if they're not used to being in that environment, they just don't know unless we tell them about it.
One of the owner's wives, the owner was sitting next to me because he wants to learn to fly and he's asking all the questions. What's this button do? What's that do? What's this? And she says, is there an isolation button on that? And I said, yes, sir. She goes, well, do it because I'm tired of listening to his voice.
That's funny.
And how do you handle a disruption if you get one? Have you had a passenger disruption?
Oh yeah, for sure. As a matter of fact, that I think the one that sticks out in my mind. We were flying Challenger 600 back in the day, and going through about 24,000 feet, and we had a an inadvertent stick pusher activation. So we canceled it. We're trying to figure out why it's trying to push. The stick shaker's going off, and you know what that's like from flying Bombardier products. And
It's noticeable.
and the next thing we know, the owner's standing right there between us, wanting to know what's going on. And we're like, yeah, this is not a good time. It Yeah. So I've certainly had disruptions. So, again, isolate them. Sometimes you just have to tell them, be somewhat forceful with them, like, hey, sit down. We'll get back
Got
to you
this.
in a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk to you after we let us resolve this, then we'll talk to you.
Yeah, exactly. So so what do we do after disruption? You have to close that
You had
loop.
led right into that, so I clicked
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the worst thing you can do is just is I guess mitigate the disruption and then never follow up on it with them, never close the loop, right?
I agree. So we're talking corporate pilots, right? You and I are corporate pilots at this point.
Well, yeah, but I would say even if you're taking passengers in a 172 or I'm taking passengers in a helicopter, particularly if they're going to be regular passengers, close that loop and be like, hey, this is why I needed you to be quiet at that particular time. So in the future, keep that in mind.
Here's another one about another kind of passenger. We've heard stories that insects have caused accidents, right? Somebody swatting a wasp or something, or somebody gets stung and has a reaction, but usually it's the distraction of trying to get rid of some insect in the cockpit. I remember once I was flying this old plane and fortunately I was alone. It was a Lance and I was moving it somewhere. It wasn't a ferry permit. It was airworthy. And shortly after takeoff, all of a sudden I got a hive of bees in the cockpit with me.
Wow.
That side window's open. I'm shoving them all out as fast as I can. But that was very distracting. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never had anything that bad. However, there have been times where I have flown for hours and days with a fly flying around the cockpit. And it's not in and of itself, it's not dangerous, right?
Well, see, I'm
Um,
going to get that guy.
but it gets annoying and you get into that mindset and you're like, okay, the autopilot's on, so I can chase this fly a little bit. And the next thing you know, you're distracted, not paying attention to what the airplane's doing.
I don't think you're required to make a report either. I don't think,
No, I don't know. I don't know of any reports that would be
yeah, I was just wondering about that. Oh,
unless it was some sort of
the,
voluntary
uh,
safety
the
report.
smoothie fairy just arrived here. So,
Ah,
and actually, I don't know what this is. This is a McDonald's, whatever McDonald's serves. Okay, she's interrupting our podcast, but this is a welcome interruption.
yeah, I'm looking at a Chick-fil-A out the window. I'm gonna have a
All
frosted Dr. Pepper as soon as this is over.
right. You have your one buddy that you ride with a lot. I'm sure you guys have a routine for like handling multiple frequencies and things like that, right?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Things like I'm off one or you got one, I'm on two.
Hmm.
Do you monitor guard?
So I would like to tell you I do all of the time. However, we don't. Uh, but particularly on the longer routes and particularly when we're going over the across the ocean, we'll definitely monitor guard.
Yeah, I'll turn it off during critical phases of flight. I don't want to hear, when I'm taking off for landing.
So that's a valid thing. For a while, it became like an old party line, right? But I've noticed over the last 6 months or so, it has gotten much more sterile and actually being used for what it was intended to be used for.
Well, that means my efforts are working because I've been running around at all these meetings saying, if I ever catch you saying meow on guard, I'm going to give you something to meow about.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even remember the last time I heard that. It's probably been 6 months.
Yeah, it was about a year ago for me, and I did hear it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, handling multiple frequencies, particularly when you're single pilot, is challenging. Even when you're in a crew environment, we can listen to my current airplane. I think we can listen to one, two, three, four, five,
Oh my God.
potential, potentially six different audio sources.
Wow.
Uh, So it's because we have two HFs, two VHFs. We have an AM. We actually have a third VHF we can listen to. It's normally in data mode. But yeah, so it can definitely
Do
definitely
you
get
have
busy.
music?
I generally do not fly with music. However, I have in the past. Bose Bluetooth is a wonderful thing, right? Um,
There's a couple pilots I fly with that have to have their Sirius XM on all the time, and they have their favorite channels. And I'll just put it this way, I'm sick of country music right now. But there is a muting system. When the music comes on, it gets quiet.
right.
That's good. So I'd say that's probably not a big safety issue, but I kind of think, especially in a sterile, when you're below 10,000, or when you're in a critical phase of flight, it should be off.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. It's a different thing if you're doing it, listening to it in cruise, and you've got one radio call every hour, every 30 minutes that you have to make or whatever.
Yeah, if
Uh,
you're just going center to center and they're just handing you off, yeah, sure.
right.
Let's hear Conway Twitty, you know? But yeah, but I say when I'm on the approach and I miss a call sign because the music didn't mute fast enough, I'll go, was that for us?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
and now you're screwing up the whole frequency. Yeah. So this
So,
one, if you've had,
oh,
yeah, I knew you'd want to talk about this one.
yes. So particularly in the helicopter, and I'm going to force some helicopter topics in here or
Oh,
come.
okay. My helicopter friends will appreciate that.
But particularly in the Robinson in particular, but really all helicopters, it's not uncommon to see people use the big pivot suction cup mount iPad holders on the
Oh yeah,
windows.
sure. Right on the big bug screen you got there.
Yeah. And I've had those fall off before.
They fall out. Well,
Fall
the
off.
Robinson has a closing door. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking
Well,
of the
but
Hughes. The Hughes, you can't close the door.
you can, but a lot of people fly with them off, just
Hmm.
particularly when it gets hot. So now you have issues, stuff going outside the helicopter and then hitting, the tail rotor. But there have been several accidents in helicopters where iPads have fallen off either from on your lap or on a mount and gotten wedged between the anti-torque pedals.
Oh,
Yeah, so it
they're
there's
more critical in a helicopter than they are in a fixed wing. Yes.
probably more critical in a helicopter than they are in a fixed wing. However, having said that, I just had one actually within the last month. I've had two fall off in the jet, and we keep them mounted on the side windows for comply with some of the EFB standards out there. And they fell off, and they very easily could have fallen forward and into the rudder pedals.
Mm.
And I I can't reach those when I'm sitting, so I'd have to get out of the seat, lean over, and dig that iPad or pen or pencil or whatever it is out of there.
I have another incident. I don't have I have this third hand, from one of the pilot's sister's cousin's pool man's brother or something. But there was a famous, recently, like 6 months ago, a well-known airline. Uh, Someone tried to take off on the taxiway at Orlando International. And
I'm
as it
aware.
turns out, I didn't say that. I didn't say who it was, but it turns out, from what I heard, is one pilot was texting and the other was trying to pick up a pen that had fallen down, or something had fallen down, and he had his head down. And so the captain who was texting turned onto the taxiway. So that might have had something to do with that one. And
Yeah.
now, fortunately, that wasn't an accident. Nobody,
Correct.
you know, there was nothing wrong. That was just an incident, but who knows what could have happened if somebody had been taxiing the other way.
In the line between, an incident or, an accident is sometimes very razor thin. So that very easily becomes an accident, right?
Yeah. Here, here. Okay. I got to admit, when I first thought of this, I was thinking like, oh, look at that beautiful view. But I'm also thinking, have you ever seen something in the sky you didn't know what the hell is that?
Yes. We,
Yeah.
we probably a couple months ago, we spent a considerable amount of time in cruise discussing what we were seeing out the window.
Yeah.
And it was distracting. I mean, for that period of time, we weren't not watching the airplane, but we probably weren't watching it as closely as we do normally. We were fixated on trying to figure out what those lights were out there.
The second one, I didn't report it, but the tower said, everybody look east, the shuttle's taking off. This is obviously many years ago when they were still flying the shuttle. And so I'm on final for runway 7, and I'm looking up at the shuttle, and I hear my call sign say, "Hey, you realize you're following a guy who's on a 1 mile finally." Oh no, okay, slow down. It says, should I do a 180, a 360? And he goes, no, the spacing's good. Just want to make sure you're looking at it. But that was because I was looking at the shuttle taking off. Forgot to slow down. As far as UAPs, which is what are those lights, right? We don't
Mhm.
say UFOs anymore. We say UAPs.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that terminology.
Yeah, unidentified aerial phenomena.
Okay.
Yeah. I've had a number of my current airline friends, the ones who are younger than me that can still keep flying. They're telling me they're seeing some strange lights flying in and out of clouds at very fast speeds and changing direction very quickly. And I'm saying, so it's not drones? He goes, no, they're they're too big to be drones. They're too high up. They're just moving too quickly. So yeah, there's something going on, especially out over the Caribbean. I don't know what it is. The Bermuda Triangle, maybe.
Yes.
All right. And you were talking about this one. I mean, you're using this now, right?
Every flight, every single flight.
And it does not distract you at all.
No, it does not. As a matter of fact, I would say, has significantly reduced the distraction. And I don't know if that's a true statement, but
I mean, your head's down when you're reading it.
it is, but it has it has benefited. It's an overall benefit. That's what I would say. Yeah, I suppose there's some times where it could become a distraction, but it reduces the amount of times you communicate verbally.
The
So
Gen Z pilots love it. They don't have to talk anymore.
uh, most centers are using it just for communication handoffs between the centers. But more and more in the US, at least domestically, we're getting actual control instructions from it.
So,
Uh,
question on that: if they say, "Hey, contact center," and they give you a frequency, do you switch over the frequency and text them, or do you call them and say, "Hey, we're at flight level 420 or whatever." 420. There's a legal one. 410.
so we get the data link message that says contact Houston Center on whatever frequency. We have to hit the accept button, so signifying that we got the message, and
Uh-huh.
we do still have to establish verbal contact with the new.
Okay, so it's not replacing it.
No, but it cuts down on 50% of the handoff instructions. Now, when we get a control instruction, such as, climb to a new altitude, descend, here's a new route, there's no voice interaction. It's just, if we get a new
Except
route, we hit, well, first, before we hit accept, we hit insert modification and it puts the new flight plan into our FMS and
directly.
directly.
Wow,
We don't even have to change it in the FMS.
wow.
And then we have to hit accept, signifying that we did in fact get that message. So
Oh, I didn't know that. So it's synced to the FMS. Huh?
yeah, at least in the avionics I fly.
All right. So this leads right into our next one. What if it fails? And this is, I know you and I are both fans of Children of the Magenta Line.
Yeah. I've tried to find that video again, and I think they took it off the internet.
It's long. I mean, it's an hour and a half long,
Yeah.
and I'm in it.
Oh, are you?
Yes, I'm one of the people in the audience because I was an Eagle pilot then. I was back for recurrent, and that was at the academy in Dallas, where you are now.
I did not know that. I'll have to see if I can find that and see you.
Oh, you wouldn't recognize me. I was a much younger, hairier man then.
Yeah.
So I always like to say there's what he said in Magenta Line is there's three levels of automation. Well, there's four really, because there's no automation. Zero, where you're hand flying, right?
Right.
And then there's just wing level, where you just push it in the wing level and it lets you do whatever you want. Then the next level would be heading mode, where at least you could, fly a heading, get a vector, rather than if somebody gives you a big reroute. Now, the CPDLC just does it for you, which is nice, but it used to could. It used to be that someone would give you a reroute and you'd have to put all that stuff in, and someone's had to be down, and you'd both be going, no, no, that goes over there. I mean, I
Right.
remember many days in the RJ at Mesa, we'd be putting in reroutes, and then nobody's outside, nobody's looking outside.
Yep.
And if a failure happened then, or if it started going, it did what I do as a sim developer. It did my favorite thing. Why is it doing that? It would start going off in some direction which had nothing to do with what you were putting in. Then I would drop back to, sometimes I would just say, give me a vector.
Yeah.
And,
So,
that's
yeah.
going to be too much to put in right now. Give me a vector.
Yeah. I've definitely had issues with automation. I struggle with using the word failure because a lot of times it's not an automation failure per
Well,
se.
it's pilot failure.
It's a pilot
Yes.
failure, or you don't under
Operator error.
yeah, or you don't understand what it's supposed to be doing.
Right.
And unfortunately, some of these automation systems have just gotten so complex. It's impossible to understand every single mode, every single nuance of what that system can and will do.
Even in these little planes, the Garmin's, the 750
Yeah.
NXTI, there's so many buttons. It's touchscreen, so there's so many things you can do. I'm thinking about doing a whole course on how to use the Garmin.
I I think that'd be an absolutely worthwhile endeavor because it's, at least at the level that I'm at and that you've flown at in the corporate world and even the airline world, we get a lot of training on avionics,
Yeah,
as opposed to the GA community where you can just go in, jump in any airplane, any Cessna 172, if that's what you're going to go fly. And it might be, basic steam pack, six pack steam gauges, or it could be, G1000,
or
G750s.
750 and two G5s,
Yeah,
or a
exactly.
650 or a 375. Which one of those is different than the other? I'm not really sure how.
Right. Right. Exactly. There are just so many different variations on it.
You'll like this one. Yeah, this is when you don't have the Garmin. I know my favorite story to tell about this, Jason, is when I first, I took a hiatus from flying for a few years,
Mhm.
and I came back, and the tablets, the ForeFlight thing was not around when I quit. But I got in the CAP 182, and I'm flying around with this guy who's a mission pilot and an instructor pilot, and someone told us there's traffic at your 1 o'clock and 2 miles. So I looked up
He
to my
looks,
1 o'clock, and he looked, he looked down at his tablet. And then he looked up. I said, it's not down there, it's over there.
yeah,
But you know what I do now? Okay. It helps you find it. But I know some people spend, I mean, I was training this guy on the sim and the other in the King Air, and he was so excited that his tablet synced to the sim. He was using Garmin Pilot, not ForeFlight. That he was going through all the stuff on the Garmin Pilot, and I failed an engine on him, and he didn't even notice. He was just enjoying the way that he could make everything work from the tablet on the sim, which the planes do too, right?
I,
Does your guy's tablet do that? Do you
yeah,
app interface?
if one of us did not have a tablet, it would probably be a no-go item for us.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah,
Well,
because
that's your charts. It's your electronic
yeah,
flight bag, right?
exactly. I mean, everything we do now, for better or worse, is all done through the tablet.
And
Um,
one of my Pilatus pilots, he always gets upset when it doesn't sync to the tablet. And he starts complaining that he has to put the flight plan in by hand.
so that's not an issue for us because we download ours through the FMS. So, but yeah, I can see that being a frustration, an annoyance.
And
But
we're coming up on 20 minutes, so let's push it a little bit here. This
okay.
again, folks, this is episode 0, where Jason and I are still figuring out how to do this. But I do want to get to the big one, which we kind of hinted about. Phones. Oops. Yeah. I gotta say, I don't do number 3 anymore, but I have done 1 and 2, and recently too.
Yeah.
However, I've been trying to do it texting while taxiing. I'm doing it because I'm trying to find out where I'm supposed to go. So I would say it's directly related to the flight. I do not text and drive anymore. It amazes me when I see people doing it. It's scary as hell. They're all over the road. And if I know you don't do that because you're a smart guy, but to the rest of you, all 5 of you listening to this, please stop. Put the phone down. If there's a button which you can use push to call the person back.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I still see it a lot. You're right, it is scary. And I have not been in a car for the past probably decade at least that doesn't have the ability to do voice to text.
Oh, mine doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't?
Oh, it has the ability, but I have to go pay, $50 a month for some subscription to get it to
Oh,
work.
okay.
And it's a lease car. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so what I was gonna say is if you have to answer that text that urgently, at least do it that way.
Yeah.
Um, have Siri
Or
answer
just
it
call them.
or
Siri.
call.
Not all of us have Siri.
Well, you have an iPhone, don't you?
No,
Oh,
no, some of us have real phones.
oh
I
boy.
know that's fighting words. I'm sorry. I do have an iPad. I have an iPad,
There you go.
but I no, I got in trouble for saying that. I don't want to pick on it. iPhones are amazing. iPhones
Uh,
are wonderful. They're great. Best thing China has. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? Never mind. All right, real quick, sum it up. Yeah, don't do any unnecessary texting while flying or taxiing, please.
and again, I'm not talking about sitting a cruise, or we're not talking about sitting a cruise at 43,000 feet.
Oh, if you've got Starlink and you're up at cruise, yeah, I've had people call me
Yeah,
and talk to me while they're at cruise. Yeah, but that's not sterile cockpit.
exactly.
And our definition of sterile cockpit for what you fly, the big iron, the Challengers and everything, those are anything over 10,000 feet is non-sterile, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then to sum up, is there anything that I didn't put in here that I should have put in here? Did something pop up on you while I was
Well, I mean, I think this topic is so broad. We could do hours upon hours. Uh,
yeah, but we'd lose all our viewers.
we'd lose all the viewers.
4 of the 5 are already clicking away anyway. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I'd say, what I generally have told my students is, think of, do a debrief with yourself at least, driving away from the airport, thinking about that flight and, what could have gone better, what went well, but, add distractions in there. what distractions did I have? And maybe you don't even realize it at the time that it was a distraction until you think about it later, and you're like, oh yeah, maybe that was.
And for those of you watching, if you thought of anything that we could have covered, by all means, put them in the comments. Or I believe there's information on this channel that allows you to reach experienced pilot services. We'd be glad to have your feedback, positive or negative. Negative feedback's good because that, for some reason, brings up the ratings. So I just want to thank you all for tuning in. Jason, thank you for your insights. And I just want to say on behalf of Jason and myself, thank you for joining us here on Hangar Talk, the podcast.
Thank you.